In Hirosaki City, Aomori Prefecture, Japan, there is a very long-established restaurant famous for its French cuisine. The Jamataki restaurant is always incredibly popular. If you want to reserve a table, you have to wait up to half a year. Reaching this level of success in business is truly remarkable. Of course, they have a secret to their success. That secret is Mr. Kimura's apple soup on the menu. However, the soup ingredients themselves are nothing particularly special. What makes it unique is the apple itself. These apples come from Mr. Kimura's family farm. Someone once said that when you bite into one of these apples, every cell in your body feels moved. There's a feeling of joy simply from eating something so pure and good. It's like being embraced in your mother's arms. Another person said that just eating this apple once in a lifetime is already fulfilling. This variety of apple is also quite miraculous. It doesn't spoil. Even if left for 2 years, the apple remains good, doesn't change color, and is still edible. So, have these apples been magically enchanted? In Japan, there is a TV program called The Work of Experts. They did a special feature on these apples, revealing the unique apple-growing technique of the Kimura family. Today, let's talk about the mystery of Kimura's apples that never spoil. Be a fool at least once in your life. This isn't some heroic or grand quote, but it led one man to success. That line comes from the Japanese film Miracle Apples, which was adapted from a true story. The main character, the foolish man in the movie, is Akinori Kimura, who exhausted everything and spent 8 years just to grow 2 apples. So what exactly is the story of Akinori Kimura? In 1949, Akinori Kimura was born into a regular fruit farming family in the town of Yaki, Aomori Prefecture, Japan. At that time, his name was not yet Akinori Kimura. It wasn't until he married the eldest daughter of another farming family, Michiko Kimura, and joined the Kimura household that he took on the surname. Although born into a farming family, Kimura was a curious and studious child who loved researching. He never intended to spend his life growing fruit trees. However, he couldn't resist the power of love, nor could he escape the fate that had been set for him. The woman he loved, Michiko, also came from a farming background, so eventually he returned to that same path and accepted the life of an apple farmer. As everyone knows, apple farming can't be done without fertilizer and pesticides. Apples are difficult to grow, requiring more than 10 rounds of pesticide spraying from blossom to harvest. Without pesticides, there are no apples. This has become common knowledge. Mr. Kimura followed the same farming methods. However, all the hard work only resulted in discomfort throughout his body. It turned out that Mr. Kimura was allergic to pesticides. After each spraying session, he would come home and scrub himself thoroughly. Yet the symptoms persisted. His wife, Mrs. Kimura, was even worse. She would vomit, develop sores, suffer from fevers, and even fall into unconsciousness. Every pesticide spraying meant more suffering for the Kimura family. Seeing that his entire family seemed unsuited for fruit farming, Mr. Kimura was tormented. What could he do now? Fate is often mysterious. Just when things seemed hopeless, a ray of hope appeared. One day, Mr. Kimura discovered a book. It was The One Straw Revolution by Japanese agricultural expert Masanobu Fukuoka. The book began with a striking line: "Do nothing. A farming life without pesticides or fertilizers." Mr. Kimura hoped this method would end his family's suffering from pesticide exposure. So he decided to give it a try. His family fully supported him. Starting in 1978, Mr. Kimura began trying this new apple-growing method. No pesticides, no fertilizers. And this attempt would last 10 full years. In the first spring, without spraying or fertilizing, his apple orchard looked just like the previous year. Flowers blossomed throughout the garden and everyone was happy. It seemed like not using pesticides could still work. However, the good times didn't last long. By July, harvest season arrived, and the apple trees were infected with leaf spot disease. Leaves withered and dropped to the ground. Before long, the orchard looked like a bare, dried-out forest. To avoid a repeat of the first year's failure, Mr. Kimura made many preparations the following year. Spraying vinegar, alcohol, garlic water, he tried everything. But by July, the leaves continued to fall. By the third year, the apple trees had stopped blooming altogether. In the fourth and fifth years, since he still refused to use pesticides, his orchard had turned into a paradise for insects. It even started affecting the orchards of nearby farmers. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next exciting adventures. No matter how much the villagers tried to be understanding, deep down, they still held resentment. As for Mr. Kimura, he was deeply saddened. 5 years had passed, and all of the family's savings had been poured into the apple orchard with not a single harvest. If he alone suffered, it would be one thing, but his wife and children had to suffer alongside him. The constant setbacks pushed Mr. Kimura to the brink. That year, there was an overwhelming outbreak of pests, over 30 different types. Helpless yet determined not to spray pesticides, Mr. Kimura had no choice but to call the entire family out to the orchard to catch bugs by hand. They collected the insects in plastic bags, dozens of them. At that time, Mr. Kimura's daughter had started school. In one of her writing assignments, she wrote, "My dad is an apple farmer, but for many years he's never managed to grow even a single apple." Reading her words, Mr. Kimura recalled seeing her standing in front of a toy stand. She was so understanding. She never asked her parents to buy anything. A deep, unspoken sadness welled up inside him. At that time, it was truly the golden age of the apple market. Other farming families in the Aomori region were already living in villas and driving luxury cars. Meanwhile, the Kimura family had spent years without harvesting any apples. The whole family had to cover the losses. Mr. Kimura had no income left and was forced to take odd jobs just to support them. However, during those years of persistence, something incredible happened. One day, Mrs. Kimura had just returned home and sensed something strange in the orchard. When she went outside, she heard Mr. Kimura talking, but there was no one there. Who was he speaking to? It turned out he was talking to the apple trees. She saw him walking up to each tree and apologizing to them. Mr. Kimura said to the trees, "Please try to survive. Even if you don't bear fruit, it's okay. Just don't die because I'm not spraying pesticides." But afraid others might hear him and think he was crazy, he avoided the trees near the roadside or those close to his neighbors. Later, Mr. Kimura deeply regretted this, because back then, out of fear, he didn't apologize to those trees. And those trees collapsed one after another like dominoes. Although Mr. Kimura sincerely apologized to the apple trees, more and more of them continued to wither away. 8 years had passed, and despair knocked on his door once again. On that day, while other fruit farmers were celebrating a bountiful harvest, Mr. Kimura sat alone in his barren orchard, silent and empty. After sitting quietly for a while, he stood up and decided to venture deep into the mountains to find a place to end his life. He kept walking and walking until he suddenly saw a tree ahead, growing tall and healthy. He was surprised and approached it, only to realize it wasn't an apple tree. It was an oak. Something felt off. This was deep in the mountains. No one was spraying pesticides or adding fertilizer. Wild grass was overgrown. Insects were everywhere. So how could this oak tree thrive so well? After thinking for a long time, Mr. Kimura realized something important. This was a mountain peak, and the soil here was different. He quickly dropped to his knees, grabbed a handful of soil, and smelled it carefully. Yes, he was right. The scent of this soil was unlike anything he had encountered elsewhere. Then he thought back. Around the trees in his apple orchard, everything was always clean and neatly trimmed. Weeds were pulled, the area was kept tidy. But around that wild oak tree on the mountain, weeds and insects were everywhere. Could that be the reason? Mr. Kimura wanted to give it one more try, and with that, he found the courage to live on. He asked his family if they would give him one more chance. Seeing him suddenly regain his spirit, of course they were happy. So Mr. Kimura began planting large amounts of soybeans in his orchard, because soybean roots are full of rhizobia bacteria, which can improve the soil's nutrient content. By the second year, the orchard had transformed into something like a wild jungle. Soybeans were growing tall, wild grasses sprouted everywhere beneath them, and insects were crawling all around. The place resembled a mini zoo. Frogs, snakes, rabbits, field mice, you name it, it was there. At that time, some neighboring farmers even came to complain. "What you're doing is causing our orchards to be overrun with pests." But they soon realized that all the bugs were flying into Mr. Kimura's orchard instead. In fact, it was almost like he was helping them by attracting the pests away, so eventually, no one complained anymore. Here, Mr. Kimura relied on the laws of nature. An increase in pests would attract birds, and the birds' droppings would nourish the soil. In short, it became an ecological paradise where animals and plants could grow in harmony. And what everyone looked forward to the most were still the apple trees. Mr. Kimura noticed that although the trees still showed some signs of leaf spot disease and leaf-rolling pests were still fluttering around, he knew the orchard was gradually regaining its health. Then the harvest season was approaching again. But because of so many years of failure, Mr. Kimura didn't even dare open his eyes to look at his orchard. He feared that what he saw would only bring more disappointment. His wife, however, pulled his hand and encouraged him. "Open your eyes and look." Wow! One of the apple trees had bloomed. Mr. Kimura couldn't believe his eyes. On a tree that had never been sprayed with a drop of pesticide, 7 blossoms had bloomed. Later, the tree bore 2 apples. The whole family looked at the 2 red apples and felt true joy in their hearts. These were the first apples the tree had produced in all those years. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next exciting adventures. They cut apples and divided them equally, but Mr. Kimura was still hesitant. He didn't dare take a bite. His daughter took the first bite, giving him the courage to eat the apple he had spent so many years struggling to grow. Unexpectedly, after taking a bite, Mr. Kimura became even more excited. "Wow, this apple tastes amazing!" It was unlike any apple he had ever eaten. After 8 years with no harvest, these 2 apples had finally helped Mr. Kimura regain his faith. Once again, he decided to press on, giving the trees time to fully recover from all their illnesses. By the 11th year, the Kimura family finally welcomed an abundant harvest. And this harvest was far greater than anything he had ever imagined. Surely everyone has eaten apples before, so you probably know, typically once an apple is cut, it begins to brown. Leave it for a few days and it will start to rot. Especially in summer, you have to eat them quickly. the apples from the Kimura family were different. When sliced in half, even if left for half a year or even 2 years, they wouldn't rot. They would simply dry out, gradually shrinking in size. This was likely due to the moisture content continually decreasing, and eventually the apple would become a dried fruit with a pale red color and give off a sweet aroma, just like dried fruit. Let's return to the restaurant mentioned at the beginning, Jamataki, where Mr. Kimura's apple soup is a signature dish. The head chef of the restaurant is Iguchi Hisuka, is based on a belief that Kimura's apples don't spoil because they may have absorbed the spirit of the grower. In other words, these are apples nurtured entirely with Mr. Kimura's heart and soul. Because the apples became so famous, professors from universities even came directly to the Kimura family orchard to conduct research. They discovered that the place was truly extraordinary. The plants there had the ability to fight pests on their own. For example, after conducting research, scientists discovered that the number of bacteria on the leaves of Kimura's apple trees was significantly higher than in other orchards. When a plant disease appeared, the apple trees responded intelligently. They stopped supplying nutrients to the infected leaves, allowing them to fall off naturally. Moreover, when pest infestations became severe, many insects like wasps would appear and build legendary nests to feed on the pests. Then, once the pests disappeared, the wasps would also gradually leave. It seemed that allowing the apple trees to live in harmony with nature enabled nature itself to maintain balance in its own way, keeping the trees healthy and strong. In this way, human intervention was hardly necessary. The success story of Kimura's apple trees has touched many people. Mr. Kimura possesses a level of perseverance in his beliefs that ordinary people often lack. And when he stood at the edge of despair, a miracle gradually unfolded. It's said that some young people with impulsive thoughts of ending their lives after hearing Mr. Kimura's story found the courage to keep on living. There were even some gang leaders who wanted to sit down, drink wine, and talk about life with Mr. Kimura. Beyond all of this, there was also his deep devotion. As the restaurant's head chef said, it was as if each apple had been infused with Mr. Kimura's soul. Just imagine Mr. Kimura treating each apple tree as a living being, apologizing to each one. Isn't the abundant harvest today truly the tree's way of repaying him? This brings to mind a famous experiment by a Japanese scientist. Dr. Masaru Emoto was inspired by the idea that no two snowflakes are exactly alike. And so, Emoto began researching water. He believed that, similarly, there are no two identical water crystals in the world. The experiments by Masaru Emoto became widely known. For now, let's just focus on a few of his conclusions. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next exciting adventures. Put simply, water can communicate with humans. Moreover, water seems capable of understanding any written language. Because even if the word "thank you" is written in any language and placed on a bottle, the water inside forms incredibly beautiful crystal patterns. If you place the words "marital love" on a bottle of water, it will produce a large water crystal embracing a smaller one, symbolizing the love and bond between husband and wife. If the label says "family love," the crystal patterns will form in layered tiers, as if expressing the idea of generations living in harmony, showing that family love spans ages and unites the young and old. If the label says "neighborly love," the 6 arms of the crystal will draw close together, seemingly illustrating a scene of people helping one another. Of course, these are all beautiful shapes. But what happens with negative messages? If words like "cruel," "bastard," "I hate you," or "I'll kill you" are placed on the bottle, The resulting water crystals form twisted, ugly, frightening shapes. This suggests that water can read and understand such written words. And not only that, water can even appreciate music. If you let a bottle of water listen to music by Bach, the resulting water crystals are neat and visually beautiful. If it listens to Beethoven's Symphony No. 6, Pastoral Symphony, the crystals appear bright, clear, and cheerful. If the water listens to Chopin's Farewell composition, it forms small, scattered crystals. And if it listens to children's songs, the crystals take on pure and innocent forms. Water doesn't just understand music and writing, it also reacts to visual stimuli. For example, if you show water an image of a lotus flower, its crystal patterns will resemble a lotus in continuous bloom. There are countless examples like this. Eventually, Dr. Emoto compiled his research into a book titled The Message from Water. He was even invited to present a special report at the United Nations, where he told the world that all things in existence can communicate with one another. Human thoughts, in fact, shape the surrounding environment. The thoughts within our minds, including spoken words and written language, can influence water. Water can receive this information and reflect it through changes in its own state. And so, inspired by Dr. Emoto, others began conducting similar experiments, expanding the range of tested objects. It was discovered that materials such as plants, rice, and even everyday items possess a form of awareness. That's why people say, all things have spirit. The apple trees of Mr. Kimura, which we mentioned earlier, seem to have unintentionally proven this very idea. Quantum physicists are also supporting this from a theoretical standpoint. They propose that all things have the ability to sense because the energy of the universe is interconnected. The entire cosmos is a fully responsive system, described in philosophy as, when a single thought arises in the human heart, all of heaven and earth are aware. Another phrase, form is born of the mind, and circumstances shift according to the heart. Could it be that these 8 simple characters have already explained what thousands of scientific experiments are trying to say? Not just humans, everything in this universe, plants, minerals, rivers, land, all possess spirit. They naturally have the ability to hear and understand human intent. This is the innate nature of all things, and the world around us will reflect the state of our hearts and minds. On the flip side, having a kind heart, speaking kind words, doing good deeds, and being a good person, that's what allows the world we live in to remain beautiful and intact, rather than heading toward destruction. From these water crystals we can see, it seems that all things in existence appreciate kindness and beauty, and Kimura's apples teach us this. When you truly love something, allow it to return to its natural state, and in return, it will reward you with something good. If even water and apples respond like this, then how much more so would human beings? What do you think? We welcome you to share your thoughts in the comment section below this video. And that's where we'll pause our sharing for today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to share it with a friend so you can enjoy it together. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share so that more people can benefit from our valuable content. Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you again.